This time on MTV. I don't know what it did to him, but there was some really horrible chemical reaction.
What happens in Atlanta stays in Atlanta, right?
In an old, nasty-looking, creepy clown outfit.
So in Psalm 19, it talks about how the heavens declare the glory of God.
We're special because God made us special.
You know, you don't have to believe this, but what if you get that wrong?
Inny or Outty, they do not practice what they preach.
The word Bible, Inny or Outty.
We sounded almost smart. Hey, welcome to Mike the Baptist. We're starting out laughing today.
Yeah, we are.
So we're going to have a good time. Why wouldn't you have a good time? Why would you not have a good time?
We have coffee and a Mike the Cup.
Mike the Cup. We have a coffee and a Mike the Cup. Speaking of that, order you one. MikeTheBaptist.com. It's confusing how you order because I never really followed through and completed that in a good way. So it's a little confusing. If you get confusing, send us an email to comment@MikeTheBaptist.com.
Cool.
Anyway, what's on today's episode? Today's episode on the Front Porch, we're going to talk about interesting, funny, or exciting live events that we have been to. This could go anywhere.
Yeah.
And I hope it does.
I got a good one.
Inny or Outty at the end. No need to say much about it. It's always very interesting, fun-educational. You learn something. Usually, I learn how...
Jason makes things complicated?
No, how dumb I am about some things, but it's always enlightening. In the middle, we're going to talk about some stuff we found in the Bible, and today we're talking about...
In the Bible? How the heavens declare the glory of God.
Yes.
Yeah, and how the Bible is inspired by God. It's His word for your good.
Psalm 19.
Psalm 19.
Not to be confused with Psalm 1.
2 Timothy, where it talks about the word of the active, or the word is God-breathed. It's for us.
It may come up that some people still believe or are believing again the earth's flat. It may come up. I'm just saying. It may.
Makes my head flat.
In the meantime, welcome to H.T. Jones.
Hey, good to be here.
Welcome to Jason Riccardi. I'm Mike the Baptist. I'll be Mike the Baptist the whole program. On the Front Porch today, as we discussed a little bit earlier, let's talk about live events we've been to. Entertaining, funny, serious, preferably not the serious ones, but if you need to, just live events. Interesting. HT?
I can start this one off because
okay.
This was a good reminder that happened to us this weekend. Had all the kids up talking to everybody, and somebody was asking my grandkids where they played baseball. And they said, well, we play up here in White House. And, of course, where I live is really more in Greenbrier. And somebody said, well, why didn't y'all play in Greenbrier? And I said, oh, let me tell you why we didn't play in Greenbrier. Because back when Reed, my oldest son, was playing, he played 1 year of Little League Baseball in Greenbrier. First of all, the people that I knew from high school were there, and they were just, some of them were just chaotic. I mean, there was literally one guy who was walking up and down the street cussing people and all this stuff. And I'm like, this is supposed to be family friendly, a little more laid back or whatever. But the culmination of the season was their little team had been sponsored by the Highland Rim Racetrack. And literally the Highland Rim Racetrack, you can see from my back porch. Mm-hmm. Never been.
Certainly can hear it.
Mm-hmm. Never been my whole life. So they were giving free tickets to all the players and their families to come over there and enjoy Highland Rim. And, during an intermission or something, whatever, they brought us down on the infield. And, the kids really were excited. But I'd never been to Highland Rim. If you don't know, it's a 1/4-mile track. And it is literally the curve in it is so steep you can't walk up it. And so it's a 1/4-mile track, which means it's short, but they will start with like 15 to 20 cars.
Oh my gosh.
And I mean, it's like every half lap, it's a caution flag, and it was just taking forever. Well, the funny part about it was, we look over there and bless his heart, I know this guy was trying to do something nice for the kids, but there was this old drunk guy in an old, nasty looking, creepy clown outfit. and he's dragging around this trash bag, and he would see a kid sitting over there with their family, and he'd reach into this trash bag, and he's saying all these weird things because literally I think he was drunk, and he would pull out this stuffed animal that it looked like it got from Goodwill that somebody's dog had chewed up. I mean, it was not even close to being new quality. And then he's making little voices with the doll that has no hair and all this stuff. And he goes to hand it to the kids. Well, I'm just like sitting there going, are they really allowing this to happen? I mean, it's really kind of sad, but yeah, that's
That is so bizarre.
It was very bizarre. You're just kind of like, are they really doing this? And my son was like, oh yeah, I remember that guy. He was creepy.
How old were the kids?
They were probably like 7. Yeah.
That's bizarre.
Yeah.
That is bizarre. I did think of an event, which
Did you finally come up with a PG event?
Well, yeah, I had another event earlier, but just nixed it. But and I understand Jason's probably has an exciting event that he's going to tell us about.
I've got a pretty funny one. Yeah.
So I'm gonna get this one out of the way. I recall going to remember Promise Keepers, the men's events?
Oh yeah.
I recall going to a Promise Keepers event in Indianapolis, and there's two things. There's a serious side to this, and then there's a side that takes a drastic bad turn. The serious side is, at one point during that thing, between speakers, they give everybody time to go get something to eat and what have you. So some of us went and got something there and just came back up, and we'd just eaten it in the stands there. So, but during that down period, at one point I got to listening. And the stadium was not full of men at that time. It was just scattered and people eating and stuff. But they were all just kind of talking. And I closed my eyes and imagined that I was in the crowd watching Jesus be crucified. If you've never done that, try that sometime at an event when it's down. People are just talking in a large auditorium like that. It was I'll never forget that. It was like, wow, that was astounding the way that felt. And then, just down the street, I think we stayed one night or something, maybe. I don't remember how it worked, but just down the street, a couple of blocks from what's the indoor stadium there in Indianapolis? Pardon?
Lucas Oil Stadium.
I guess it's Lucas Oil. Anyway, a couple blocks from that, if you wanted to leave the premises, there was this hamburger joint. I don't remember the name of it, but everybody was talking this hamburger joint. There was a buzz about it, and some of us went down there. And sure enough, there was a big line all the way down the sidewalk, but everybody they were bragging on this place. We get in there, and they got these hamburgers like the size of a hubcap on a car, for one, and they were just dripping with grease. You could see them shining from, way back. And then they would give you a bag of French fries. And I kid you not, you could hold the little paper bag of French fries up and tilt it, and there was an inch of liquid grease just down in the bottom of the bag. Now, let me say, it was all really good.
Yeah, I imagine, yeah.
Oh, man, it was really good. Until probably later that night, 15 of us got in the church van.
Yep.
And started driving back from, what is that, 5.5, 6 hours?
5, yeah.
About an hour in, it hit James Bates. And I'm literally every 2 minutes, every window had to go down. A few times we had to just stop and get out because that stuff, I don't know what it did to him, but there was some really horrible chemical reaction that was just like, it was like the worst van ride I've ever been on in my life. And so anyway, that's my two-sided live event story, which took a bad turn. However, I think it'll be redeemed shortly because when Jason gets to telling his story, you'll forget about mine. I just got a feeling. Jason?
So I'm not going to share the story that I would like to share.
Okay.
It's really funny, and if you're listening to this and you would like to know this other story, it is worth your time. Feel free to ask me, and I will tell you off air. Okay.
Yeah.
But there was this one time that I was taking students to. Michael Jackson heard it off air, and he's like having a hard time recovering.
I'm still haven't recovered.
So this is one time I went to Atlanta, and you know what happens in Atlanta stays in Atlanta, right? It's kind of a crazy place. So I was taking students to Passion is what the name of the conference is, and so one crazy stuff happens there. I'm in the minivan with a couple of guys in the back, and we get done with the conference, and it's like 12:30, 1 o'clock. So we're hungry. It's been 6 hours since we last ate. So we pull into a McDonald's. And golly, we're just waiting there. I'm like, there's one car in front of us, and it's 12:30 at night. What is taking so long? And all of a sudden, we heard like some screaming going on between the car in front of us and the person at the window. And then they just took off, and they were peeling tires and headed out. And we thought, all right, this probably isn't like the best place to go. So we leave, and we pull up at a light, and we're waiting at a light. And that car that had just been at McDonald's pulls up next to us and looks at us. They roll their window down, and they're like, hey, can you roll your window down? I was like, all right. So I roll the window down, and this person kind of leans out the window and asking us random questions. I'm like, this is 12 o'clock, 12:30, 1 o'clock in morning. What are we doing here? And then all of a sudden, this person like, what you want? And we're like, we're just headed home. No. What you want? You want some girls? You want some drugs? And something about that minivan that we were driving in at 1 o'clock in the morning downtown Atlanta said that soccer mom needs some help right there. So that happened one trip when we went to Atlanta, and another one when we went to Atlanta to this same conference. We were in a Starbucks, and one of our students left their phone in the bathroom, and it was maybe a half an hour later they realized that they had left it in the bathroom. And so then we're sitting there having conversation. We're fixing to head to the conference, and this person goes, oh, I left my phone. And so they run to the bathroom. Sure enough, it's not in there. And there's a lot of there's a homeless demographic that's in downtown Atlanta. And so he pulled up his Find My Phone app on somebody else's phone and started tracking it, and we could just see that the phone actually made it around the block a couple times. And we're like, all right, somebody has it in their hand and they're just wandering around with it. And so he says, hey, do you think we might be able to see if we can find it? I said, man, I don't know. It's probably gone at this point. And he says, well, do you think we can try? And I was like, all right. So I sent most of the students on, and about 2 or 3 students stayed with me, and we kind of figured out that it was one of 2 individuals that had this phone. One was on the left side of the street, one was on the right side of the street, and the one on the right side of the street turned around the block, and we were watching the Find My app, and it ended up being it was the person who was on the left side of the street, and they turned this direction. So we followed them, and we walk up to the guy, and sure enough, he's got the phone in his hand. And we said, hey, man, I think you might have my friend's phone. Do you think we might have it back? And he says, oh, man, I'm so glad that I've been looking for you guys. I thought, I was on my way to the police station. I'm so glad you guys found me. I was trying to find you guys to give the phone back to you. Right. And we're like, yeah, okay, sure. And we said, well, man, we really appreciate you and thank you for keeping that phone safe for us. And he says, yeah, man, I was just fixing to head to the police station. I was going to see if I could turn it in and get a reward. And I was like, all right, that's what we're asking for here. I said, well, man, I really appreciate you keeping track of my friend's phone. I'll tell you what, we'll give you all the money that's in my wallet, all the cash that's in my wallet. I'll give that to you if you give me the phone. Oh, man, I'm so glad. I was really hoping, to be able to do this. And I was like, well, thank you. And he said, well, how much you got? I said, well, it doesn't matter. I'll give you all the cash that's in my wallet if you just give me the phone. And he's like, how much you got? And I said, well, it doesn't matter. I'll give you all the cash that's in my wallet. He said, all right. So I pulled my wallet out. I knew I had like $25, $30 or something in there. And so I pulled out the $25, $30, and he's like, oh, man, that ain't enough. I was like, well, hey, man, you agreed to take all the cash that's in my wallet for the phone. And he's like, well, maybe one of these other guys can help you out. And I was like, no, you agreed to this right here. And he said, well, that's not enough. And I said, I'll tell you what, right now you're in possession of stolen property, and there's a police officer right over there. So you can either take $30 and give us the phone, or I can go turn you into the police officer right over there, and it'll go sideways for you. And so he said, "Oh man, thank you so much." And I gave him the cash, and then he, like, in a quick motion, reached up and gave me a hug. And so immediately my reaction is to check to make sure my wallet and my phone were in my back pocket. And then my next reaction was, I hope he's not trying to knife me, and so transaction happens. We get the phone back. We get onto the subway system there in Atlanta, the metro. And so he follows us. And I notice that he's following us, and so I tell the students that are with me, I'm like, all right, we're not going to get off at the next station. We're going to get off one station further down, and if he gets off when we do, we just need to pay attention to that. And sure enough, he got off when we did, and we got back on the train and headed back the direction that we need to go. He did not follow us again back onto the station, but what happens in Atlanta stays in Atlanta. It's kind of crazy. Some funny stuff happened there.
Yeah.
Over the years.
I think the moral of that story is just don't go down there.
You're not wrong.
Don't leave your phone in the bathroom.
Yeah, there's also that.
Much safer. There's some sketchy places in the country.
Yeah.
Union Station in Washington, D.C. is one of them. I'm just saying. Okay, that was exciting. And it was very exciting off camera there for about 20 minutes.
I'm telling you, if you want to know the story, feel free to ask me off air, and I'll be willing to share the story.
Jason and I both had a story that we realized we really, really couldn't share in good conscience. But anyway,
I'm pretty good about my story.
For once,
right?
yours was pretty calm.
Right.
Okay, we'll take a break, come back, talk about some stuff found in the Bible.
Got a date, Bill?
Sure, don't you, Rag Mop?
No.
Hey, you use water on your hair, too. How come your hair looks so good?
I use Vaseline hair tonic with the water. Water evaporates and dries hair out. Alcohol and cream tonics evaporate, too. Won't Vaseline hair tonic evaporate? Nope. With Vaseline hair tonic, you can use all the water you want. It replaces oil that water removes.
Here's proof. This solar furnace concentrates natural sunlight. Watch what concentrated sunlight does to these hair tonics. This dish contains alcohol tonic. Look what happens to alcohol. This dish contains hair cream. Look what happens to cream tonic. But clear and clean Vaseline hair tonic hasn't evaporated away. In the bottle and on your hair, the difference is clearly there.
In the bottle and on your hair, the difference is clearly there. It's clear, it's clean, it's Vaseline hair tonic for your hair.
Thank goodness the Bible exists, because it brings you back down after your head gets out there, way, way out there, which happened to us earlier today. But we're moving into a section now where it's about to all come back. I don't know what to say here. I'm still reeling from it's grounding. Hey, that's very good. Well, why don't you guys talk about what you found in the Bible there? What are we talking about this week? Psalms, eh?
Psalms.
Yep. Tell us about it.
Not 119, just 19.
Yep.
Yeah. So in
that
Psalm,
would be 119, A19. You catch that?
So in Psalm 19, it talks about how the heavens declare the glory of God. And there's this one thing that I really like to share with students. And so there are atheist scientists ardently do not believe in God, firmly believe there's no such thing as God. And they have this thing that they like to call the science of fine-tuning. And so the science of fine-tuning is this idea that we kind of live. Do you guys remember the Goldilocks story as a little kid? Goldilocks and the Three Bears.
I remember that.
One pours too hot, pours too cold,
yes.
Pours just right. Well, we live in what they like to call the Goldilocks zone. And so on Earth, there's the Goldilocks zone. Life is perfect. I mean, the conditions are there for life to exist.
Before the bears. Is that right?
No.
Am I on a different
Bears
story?
are part of the life, yes. So the Goldilocks zone basically just means that the conditions are perfect.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So life exists because the conditions are just right on Earth.
Okay.
And there's like these 10 different, at least, depending on who you talk to, at least these 10 different things that have to be in place for life to exist as it is right here on Earth. And there's something called the SETI, which is the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. And this was started decades ago, where they began to look for life outside of Earth in the universe. And so far, what they have turned up is a big fat zero. They find what could be
What about
potentially,
E.T.? That was a good
possibly.
movie. E.T. was a
I
good
saw
movie.
that. I saw that
I mean,
movie.
they had to be real.
Sasquatch is also real, if you believe that. I probably just offended a lot of people. There's probably people going to be sending some
His
nasty.
name is Bigfoot.
Bigfoot, yeah. He's my cousin, and anyway, you guys get me distracted all the time. I don't need any help.
It's okay. He'll go back to square A.
So search for extraterrestrial intelligence,
Goldilocks.
and they're beginning to find that life on Earth is unique. They thought initially when they started searching that they were going to find life everywhere in outer space, but they're finding out that life on Earth is special and unique. And there's all these different things that have to be in place for life to exist on Earth. I mean, we're talking the tilt of the Earth on its axis, how quickly the Earth rotates around the sun, how quickly the Earth spins on its axis, the amount of gravity that we have, the amount of oxygen in the air. All of these things have to be in place as they are for life to exist as we know it. And if you get too far out of that, life doesn't happen. Oxygen is flammable. If you have too much more than the 21% oxygen, there's fire on Earth. If you don't have 21% oxygen, you get too far away from that, we don't have the ability to think. We don't have the ability to make new life, and so life doesn't exist. If we get too close to the sun, it's too hot. You get too far away from the sun, it's too cold. If the Earth spins too fast, the atmosphere rockets off of the Earth and there's no atmosphere for us to breathe. If it spins too slow, the Earth bakes on one side and the Earth freezes on the other side. All these different things are in place for life to happen on Earth. And in Genesis 1 it says, "And God spoke the world into existence." And it just so happens that all of these things are perfect. The heavens declare the glory of God, as it says in Psalm 19.
Yeah, I think that even points to most of the marketing we see. All of our biggest enemy is age and ultimately death. And how many things are marketed toward, hey, men, if you're not living up to the vitality you had in your 20s, take this medication. Ladies, if you don't have the hair, the big hair that you used to have, and you have wrinkles, take this medication. And, we're trying so desperately to hold on to this life that is so fragile and exists in this bubble of porridge, as you said, in the Goldilocks zone. And it's so fragile. And again, you see that even in our own understanding, where maybe none of us at the table are astrophysicists to understand all the big picture, but we know this. If I don't sleep enough, then my body doesn't function. If I don't eat enough, if I get dehydrated, man, you start getting cramps. And then when you start seeing people getting older, they have to be put on oxygen because their bodies can't function if they don't have enough oxygen. And it really is a good reminder of how delicate and the balance of life really is. There's not a darn thing we can do about it. We can make some adjustments, but it's just the reality that life in this world is going to end for all of us.
There's somebody in charge.
Yep.
We aren't in control.
And we
is
are
what I
not
was sitting
in-
here thinking. We're not in control of it.
And here's a spiritual word you can buzz me on. It bumfuzzles us.
Oh no, I'm not going to.
That's a fun word.
Yeah, I do like that one.
Bumfuzzles.
That one fits.
Yeah.
It bumfuzzles. I was thinking too, like even a plant. If you lay it out of the dirt, it's going to be gone pretty quick.
Yeah.
And it's just something that simple as the roots of that plant have to be under dirt in order to survive. And it's
And the interesting thing about plants, again, it's just crazy to me that the thing that the plant puts off as a byproduct of living is the very thing that we need to live.
Yeah.
And the very thing that we put off as a byproduct of living is the very thing that plant needs to live.
Isn't that odd?
It's almost as if it was designed that way.
Almost like that.
The heavens declare the glory of God.
The big argument in the recent years that I've heard is about the eyeball.
Yeah.
How the eye and its ability to see, how it's made, what it does to process information and relate that into your brain. Very fascinating. That can't
it cannot
be chance.
evolve on its own.
No, it can't
There's
be.
so many different processes that are involved in that to happen
Yeah.
that it cannot happen by chance.
What's the reason for what we're talking about today?
Well, we are uniquely and specially designed,
Okay.
and we are made in the image of God to declare the glory of God.
Okay.
And not only we, but everything that we see, there's something called, the fancy theological term is general revelation. And the idea is that everything, yeah, go ahead and buzz in, that's fine.
Just yeah.
The
Just 'cause I
idea
don't know
is
for
that
sure.
there is, the heavens declare the glory of God. You can look outside and see that the design in the universe, and therefore pretty strong indication that there is a designer.
So the non-church person that might be involved in this conversation is saying, well, how, just things are just what they are. And how does that mean that they're pointing to a God? I mean, they just came about, they're there. How in the world could that mean that they're pointing to something else? They're just there.
The basic crux of the argument is this, and I'll pull up my cell phone, let you guys see that. This right here is far less complex than what we are. This didn't happen on accident. And if this didn't happen on accident, and there's less design in this than there is in me, why are we so willing to say that this is on purpose by a designer?
But we're just chance.
We're just an accident. To me, it makes more sense to say that I was made on purpose.
That's
for
a
purpose.
good
Most of
argument.
those people, if they would be honest with themselves, when you hold your firstborn child, there's no way you look at that and go, just happened.
Right. Yeah.
And the feelings that you have for that child just happened. I think anybody, if they were honest with themselves, wouldn't feel like that child is just a chance of some atoms that fell together, and that's part of you, and the things that you're going to love about that child as they grow up, it's because they're part of you, and so it's the argument basically to try to prove there's not a God, because if there is a God, now all of a sudden I've got a real problem.
Right.
Now there's an authority figure that I really didn't want to have to address
Yeah.
in the room. And now if it's possible, then I've got to address it, because all these things that I've been doing that I really felt bad for doing, now there's a reason I feel bad. It's because I've hurt him.
Or that you just you have to admit that you're not in control of anything.
Yeah.
That you're not.
And time has a way of fixing that.
I'm not as smart as I once thought I was.
Right.
Yep. Any or Outty will do that to you as well.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know all that.
Guys at the end of their life that thought they were pretty tough, and probably in their 20s and 30s were pretty tough. Come on, we're going to go whip somebody, and we've taken life by the horns, and then all of a sudden you're laying there in a bed and you can't even go to the bathroom by yourself. You're not as tough as you thought you were. Time will take care of that, and it'll humble you. And, hopefully as we are humbled, then we start thinking about the bigger things in life instead of trying to think we're in charge.
Well, even beyond how fascinating it is, the eyeball and things like that, even beyond that, the most fascinating thing to me of all of it is that inside of you and me, everybody, there's this thing that's the person you are, that I'm not sure you can ever really describe what that is. I think we might know it as your soul, but if that's your soul, it has a personality. So how do you explain, if it's just chance, how do you explain, for one, that we are different than any other creation, that we seem to have this ability to think and communicate and verbally and create things ourselves? How do you explain that? And at the very core of that, it's so fascinating to me that you guys are friends of mine and you're sitting here at the table with me, but I know you on a different level than just your body sitting there. There's a connection that we've all got in that, whatever that thing is that makes you, there's a connection with all those. Personally, I believe, I'm not one of those that believes in the one God thing. What is that religion where it's
Everything is God.
everything is God?
Yeah.
I'm not one of those, but I do believe
Pantheism.
my understanding of the Spirit of God is that I'm connected to Him that way, very closely. How else could I be close to Him if it were not in that Spirit, which to me is this thing I feel inside of me. I can't really pinpoint it. It's not really in my head. It's not really in the center of me. It's not, but it's there. I can sense it. And I believe to me, that's where we're connected to God personally until we get there, wherever there is. Does that make sense what I'm trying to say? That's the most fascinating thing of anything to me is,
Well, all of us.
and everybody is different.
And that's, I started to say, I don't know if they can see it at home, but you're a painter and you have a painting over here,
Mm-hmm.
and that painting reflects your glory, your creativity, your thoughts. The painting itself is special because you made it special. And that's kind of how we are. We're special because God made us special. And you have one or two options, right? You can either look in the mirror and go, wow, a couple of atoms bumped into each other and here I am, and therefore I could be a mistake, and maybe the choices I've made are all mistakes, and I shouldn't have been born now, and no wonder you're depressed. Or you can look in the mirror and go, you know what? God made me this way, and I don't have to like everything about me, and there's some things about me I don't like, but God made me this way, and He did that because He loved me. And so you're either a creature that knows you're loved and you're special, or you're just a creature of chance.
You want to know how I believe you can know you're special, and you can't argue with me on this, because you're different than anybody else.
Right?
If you believe God created you, why wouldn't He just create the same thing over and over and over and know what He's getting? Not to say He doesn't know what He's getting.
Stormtroopers. Why aren't we all stormtroopers, right?
or a pre-programmed robot. But everybody is completely unique from everybody else.
Yep.
Creator has to be.
Yeah.
You know, an interesting way of looking at this is nobody has the same DNA as another person. Not even fraternal twins, like where there's a boy and a girl inside there, and there were two different eggs that were fertilized. So they're fraternal. Even they don't have the same DNA. It's only when you have identical twins, triplets, whatever, and it's a single entity that it's split into multiple things, right? But even in the case where there's identical twins, triplets, or whatever, when they grow up and develop as young kids into adolescence, adulthood, all those different things, they're still very different people.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not the DNA that makes them different. There's something else in them that exists that make them who they are. And lots of people spend lots of time trying to search this out, trying to figure out what it is. I mean, they've done studies where when a person dies, they've literally had them on a table where they can measure somebody's weight before and after death. And when they die, there's actually a little bit of a different weight to that person. And whether that's the soul leaving the body or not, I don't know. But we're unique. We're special. And lots of people are trying to figure this out. And aside from the Bible, we don't have a very clear picture of what that is. And so I used the term earlier, and it was general revelation. It's like you can look outside and see that there is a designer. There's design out there, and there's a designer behind that. Well, let's go a step further, and there's something called special revelation. And that's where the Bible comes in. And that's where the Bible is not just generally saying there is a God, there is a specific God that you need to come to know. There is a God who has written His name in the universe. And you begin to see that there's somebody out there, and you begin to notice, I'm different than the rest of creation. I think about things that animals don't think about, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's something different between me and an animal. What makes me different? And
Like
the Bible is
washing your dishes.
like washing your. Well, I mean,
No,
look,
that's just one.
there are animals that will do higher level functions.
Mm-hmm.
There are animals that will use, I'm going to put this in air quote, tools.
Mm-hmm.
They'll break off sticks and stick it in an anthill to get a meal, and they'll eat the ants. So they'll use that as a tool. I mean, they'll do different things like that, but
None of them plan for their retirement.
none of them plan for their retirement.
That's what I was getting at.
Yeah, none of them although they might grieve in the short term, you take a calf away from a cow, she'll get panicky and she'll grieve in the short term.
But she'll move on.
But 2 months from now, she won't remember that.
Right.
You know, and there's so much of us that's developed by God's character, that we have the likeness of Him in us. And you know, why do we long for something better?
Mm-hmm.
Why do we think about retirement? Why do we think about the next generation? Why do we dream? Why do we have dreams about, man, I wish I could do this or that? You know, we see potential in other people, and again, the ability to love. You know, the love that human beings can have for one another is so much deeper. I love people today that enjoy their dogs and cats, and you know what, your dog likes you, but quit feeding that sucker and see how much he likes you. I mean, you know,
Or die and not feed it and see what happens.
yeah, he'll turn around and eat you.
Mm-hmm.
I learned that in anthropology class. But yeah, we just find ourselves that we're special in creation, and it's because we're created in God's image, and we have a lot of His qualities: our ability to be creative, our ability to think dimensionally about time, our ability to love people when they don't necessarily love us. And so God's really designed us for a relationship with Him, and that's what people are missing.
Where did we start in the Psalms? Where did we start?
The heavens declare the glory of God.
So, you know, you don't have to believe this. I'm just sitting here thinking you don't have to believe there's a creator or a God or anything. But what if you get that wrong?
Yeah.
What if you're listening to us right now and you've stumbled upon what we're talking about and you're going, yeah, that's a bunch of hooey. I'm listening a little bit because they're kind of ignorant and they're funny sometimes. But what if you get that wrong?
Yeah.
I've thought about this in the past. You know, I wasn't thinking about that when I decided to buy into it, as I say. But over the years, I've thought about that once in a while. What if you're traipsing along in your life and you get this thing wrong?
Here's what we know about human beings. I think all of us would be willing to admit, physically, we're all going to die. Mm-hmm. You don't have to live long enough to start seeing that around you, that physically we're going to die. Then the next question you have to ask yourself is there something in me that's more than this physical life? You know, like you said,
Which obvious, yeah.
The personality you have and all that, does that ever go away? Well, if it doesn't go away, then what happens to it? You know, and so that's where, again, where the Bible gives us these answers, is that once you're born and you've been created, that God has given you a spirit that will last for eternity, and you're either you have to come up with some scenario. So we see some people like reincarnation, where you're going to come back and come back and come back until you get good enough to be in a godlike form. Or what the Bible teaches is that, you know, in this life you have an opportunity, you have a choice to make, and that is either to accept your creator or reject your creator, and that will determine your eternity. You're either eternally going to be with Him or eternally separated from Him.
It seems like you'd want to get that right.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, just I don't know any other way to say that. Why wouldn't you? Hey, look, I think the three men at this table, whether you're watching us or listening to us, I think I could say for all three of us that we are not perfect, and we know we're not going to be perfect. And we're okay with that because now in our lives that's covered. So it does a weird thing. It doesn't cause us to think we've got a free license now to be thugs and heels, and it gives us a reason to want to not be that, understanding that we're never going to be perfect. So we don't have to try to be perfect, because we can't. But we have somewhere to deal with that where you don't have before, which I think is why a lot of people hit the end of their rope, as they say. Because, you know, I did that in my late 30s when I realized I couldn't do anything to fix things, because I'd tried everything and none of it was working. So
you get yourself in a worse mess, don't you?
Oh, you do. Not seem to. You absolutely do. And the longer that goes, the the worse it gets. And
If
it's a
you
lot of
find
stress.
yourself in a hole, stop digging.
Yeah, I've heard that recently several
You ever
times.
telling your kids when they were little, when you have a dirty diaper, just come get me. Because when they try to
I
clean
never told mine
themselves,
that. No.
when they try to clean themselves, it's always worse.
Yeah, I told them go find your mom.
Well, they need adult supervision, right?
Yeah, I didn't know.
They
That
need
was not
adult
my.
supervision
It was
because
not my
if not,
thing.
it'll be on the floor, on the wall, all over them.
Let me say, I did take care of it when I needed to.
Right.
But
What a guy.
I did slip out of the room once in a while.
Right.
I'm just saying.
Gagging.
Full disclosure. Hey, listen, good talk.
Yep.
I believe there is a God. I believe he created all of us. And whether you choose to believe that or not, I think if you choose not to believe that, you might ought to reconsider. Just reconsider it.
So
You know?
let me say this. If you find yourself out there and you're listening to this and you're not sure about all this religion stuff, but some of the things that we said maybe resonated with you, maybe you're like, yeah, man, I can see the fact that there's probably something bigger out there than myself. The clearest description and understanding that you will find to explain those questions that you have will be in the Bible.
Yeah.
Open it up,
Yeah.
spend some time in it, and see if God doesn't breathe life into you as you read his word. I promise you that you'll just walk away
You know what, though?
different.
To be very honest right here, if you just pick it up and read it without wanting to find those things, you won't find them. If you're not wanting to understand it, you won't understand it because you're just going to be reading a bunch of words and stories. And
Yeah, you'll probably pick holes in it, and
yeah, you're just not going to. But it's weird because once you buy into this, your mind is opened up in a whole different new way. So when you do read things in there, you get these tidbits of things that you.
God even says, "My word does not return void." So just get in there, even if you want to discount it, even if you want to tear it apart, even if you want to think it's fairy tales, just read it and see what happens.
Give it a shot.
Give it a shot.
That's what we say once in a while
Right.
here.
It's kind of like you're never going to win the lottery if you don't buy a ticket.
Yeah, it's
You're never-
kind of that way, yeah.
You're never going to find God if you don't seek Him out in some way. You're just not.
But also don't go to the casino trying.
No.
give it the old college try.
Don't go play the Jesus slot machine thinking you're going to come out with a bucket of coins.
Yeah.
That was really odd. Okay, good talk. Long story short,
Give it a shot.
give it a shot. And anyway, I don't know what else to say there. Maybe I'm saying too much. Let's take a break, come back, play Inny or Outty.
Hey everybody, it's time to play America's almost favoriteest new game show, Inny or Outty, where we challenge our guests to figure out if a phrase we give them is actually in the Bible or out of the Bible. Sharpen your wits, guest. You're about to be in the hot seat of Bible stuff, because you're the next contestant on Inny or Outty. Here's Mike.
Today on Inny or Outty, we're going to ask you. Actually, y'all are going to ask me and somebody else because I don't have a question today. It's you two. But you're going to ask, is this in the Bible or out? Therefore, is it an
Any.
or an?
Howdy.
Right. There you go. That's all you need to know. Let's play. HD, challenge Jason and I. Did you notice how proper that was, my English?
You're doing better.
Challenge Jason and I.
You're doing gooder over there.
Thanks.
Inny or Outty?
Okay.
They do not practice what they preach.
Oh, man, these are good lately. They do not practice what they preach.
How long do you want to draw this out?
Practice what they preach.
Oh, you're ready, aren't you?
He thinks he's on it.
I'm pretty sure I know this one. How long do you want to draw this out?
Well, we need to, to show.
Make it
so
fun?
Make it a little bit fun. I can help with that, I think. Coming right
We've
up
all
here.
kind of run against those kind of people, haven't we?
Right?
That don't really practice what they preach.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Which kind of makes it sound like that's just too common to have been in the Bible.
You know, one of the things that has always bothered me when I was in high school is they had these rules for us that the administration and teachers did not have to follow. Obviously, I have a very big beard, and I had a big beard starting very early, and they always were on me like, "You didn't shave today." I'm like, "You have a full beard. What are you complaining
I'm 6.
to me
Leave
about?"
me alone.
I graduated.
You shaved today?
Not today, no.
Yesterday?
Yes, I did actually save yesterday, but it's here and here, and that's it.
Huh.
But I was always
How long does it take that to get long like it is now?
It grows really fast. I get a 5 o'clock shadow about 10 o'clock in the morning. If I was to shave, I mean it's quick.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So they didn't ever practice what they preached.
Did you ever see Goat Boy on Saturday Night Live?
No, Goat Boy.
I've not seen that
I
one.
never saw that one.
Is that back in the day when SNL
Jason
was
reminds
funny?
you of Goat Boy.
Well, you know. Back to my question.
Okay, so he said they, which
not-
tells me it was a quote about them talking about someone else, which leads me to believe it might be in there. What? Just shaking his head.
Did you say in or did you say out?
I'm saying any because of the way he said it. Because if I were trying to trick somebody, I would just say, practice what you preach. I would just say that phrase. But he said, they do not practice what they preach. That's what you said, right?
That's what I said.
Unless he's fooled with the phrasing there, and he might very well have fooled with the phrasing. It's in there.
Because of him saying they do not.
Well, just if he messed with the phrasing a little bit, maybe I'm misremembering, but I'm pretty sure the phrase is in there.
I think it's in there that way because I can see one tribe talking about another tribe. Wasn't there tribes and stuff in the Bible?
I think it was Jesus. It was either Jesus or Paul, I think, that said
Talking
this,
about like, you know,
that used that
Pharisees and
phrase.
stuff, and
Yeah,
or just people. I think it's an Inny. It just seems like an Inny, right?
I think it's an Inny.
Jason says it's an Inny, and I do too.
Well, you guys would be correct.
Yes, good.
Who said it?
Jesus.
Who said it? Jesus said that.
Was he talking to
Now
the?
he can get away with that.
Pharisees.
Yeah, the Pharisees.
Yeah, he can
okay.
say it. And all right, well, it's a win. But that is a good one because that's another one of those phrases.
Yep.
You never know, you know.
You never know, you know.
Yeah. Okay, Jason.
The word Bible, Inny or Outty?
Well, now that's
Is
tricky.
the word Bible
In the Bible.
Or out of the
Well,
Bible?
let's think about HD. Let's put on our intelligence caps here for a second.
Well, you got that one with the little spinner thing on top.
What is the definition of Bible? Do you know? I don't. The actual definition, Jason would know. Can we ask you what the definition of?
Phone a friend. It's a
Well,
collection of letters.
It's a collection of something. So
I think they generally refer to it as like the epitome of a description in any particular thing. Like they have the golf Bible, so
Yes.
this is like
Yes.
a very expansive, a very big description of golf. They'll have the football Bible, they'll have the
Yes.
all those different things, and so
That's what I was
it's an
getting at.
expansive description of a particular subject.
So the question would
Was anything
be,
ever called the Bible, but the Bible.
Yeah, I mean,
well, in modern times, yeah, like he was saying, the golf
Yeah, but that's
Bible.
because that's a
I don't think they had golf then, though.
right,
But would they? What you're asking is, would they have used that term
right,
in
Back
those
then.
days for
right.
other things besides?
so they did have.
But they called
way
them the
that we-
scriptures,
They
didn't they? Or the scrolls, or
Scrolls or scriptures.
They didn't have books back then the way that we do now, but they did compile the individual books in the Bible, and they would have put those things
in a
together.
collection.
Yeah, in a collection.
Would they have called them? I think they would have called them the scriptures personally, or the writings, or the letters. I don't think they would have used the word Bible back then. Do you? I looked at him real quick, and he gives nothing up. He's got the same look.
That's because these 5 o'clock shadows coming at you.
Yeah.
5 o'clock shadow is several days old now.
I don't think the word
Bible.
Bible's in there.
I don't either. It doesn't seem right, does it?
Well, obviously the New Testament's not. Most of the New Testament is referencing the Old Testament.
Right. Anything I remember, not having been to school, referenced scriptures.
Yeah.
The scriptures,
Or the law.
or the law.
prophets,
Yep.
Or the wisdom writings.
Did they ever refer to it as the book, as the collection that they had at the time as the book,
That'd be a good in your house.
That would be a good in here, Outty.
Yeah, because I know
Incidentally-
there's talk about the book. That's in Revelations, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
books.
Incidentally, one of the interesting things about the New Testament is that some of the writers, writing the New Testament took a little while. And some of the writers of books inside of the New Testament do refer to other writings
Yes.
in the New Testament as Holy Scriptures.
Peter talks about Paul's writings as being difficult.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I would.
I don't think Bible.
Yeah. You've been on fire lately. You were 100% last week, and you're already.
Don't bring it up; it'll jinx it.
Well, jinx. Is that in the Bible?
You know why? Because I haven't been saying my gut says,
That's right. So,
and now I've said it. But I don't think Bible.
All right. No, let's say
Outty.
not in the Bible.
We say it's an Outty.
Correct answer is not in.
Good. Nice.
See,
Good job, guys.
That was about as tricky as they come right there, though.
That's a good one.
that was good.
Because you're asked to challenge whether the Bible is in the Bible. So that kind of throws a little bit of a curveball.
It kind of does a little bit, yeah.
Interesting. I thought we did a good job conversing about that, H. I'm kind of proud of us. We sounded almost smart.
We're good.
Okay, take a break. Come back and tell you bye. That was fun, guys.
Oh, wow. What a great contestant and a fine sport today on Inny or Outty, America's almost favorite new game show. Study up, future guest people. You're next in the hot seat for Inny or Outty.
How did you do? I'm curious. Those of you listening or watching, how did you do on Inny or Outty? Be real honest. Well, we can't hear what you're saying anyway, but
We're listening.
it'd be interesting to know.
Comment below, right?
What?
Comment below, and we'll talk
Comment
to you.
below. Yeah.
Send us some in your outies.
You know what? We've
and
had
we'll
a
credit you.
a few of those, but we would welcome yours.
Mike the Baptist seldom does his homework.
Yes.
If you would
It's-
email him,
it's usually a surprise
if
to
you would
me.
email him at info at, or is it comments or info?
Comments at MikeTheBaptist.com.
Yeah.
At MikeTheBaptist.com. Send him some in your outie
Yes.
questions, and then he'll actually have some.
Well,
He'll give you credit, too.
we have had a few,
Yes.
a very few. So yeah, the door's open. Send us something.
We love our listeners. They're just a little lazy.
I'm a little lazy too. So, okay, but that was fun anyway. So come back next week, join us again, and we'll have some more fun. It's always fun. We're glad you stuck around. Jason Riccardi, H.D. Jones. I'm Mike. Did I cover everything that I normally cover here? Or?
Sounds like you did.
Yeah.
Well, let's just go home then. Thanks for being with us. Remember, folks, we're all just Christians.
Try not to
Cuss.
cuss.
We're all just Christians trying not to cuss. That's a good point in, I guess, as any.
Yeah.
See you next time.
Mike the Baptist.